Good morning. Good morning. How are you doing? Okay, so today we are going to be painting our rock and roll gnome. And if you'd like the paint list that we're going to be painting today, using to paint our rock and roll gnome, all you got to do is put the word gnome in the comments and I'll drop it after I go live. I'll drop the entire list of paint colors when I'm done going live. I'll also drop where you can get the printable template or the JPEG or even a wooden blank like I'm painting today. So as you hop on, make sure you say hi if you're watching the live, but also if you're catching the replay, I'd love to know. So why don't you go ahead and put hashtag replay. So as we hop in, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and base coat this blank, just basic white. It's not anything special. It's just, any old white will do. I think I'm using warm white, but that's not special. You can use regular titanium white. Or good morning, Cindy. I love the Elvis now. Me too. Graham and I finally watched the Elvis movie. It took us 3 nights because it's like 3 hours long. But we finally watched it last week and we loved it. It was exactly what I expected. I'm just base coating. I'll go ahead and go full screen when we get into the nitty gritty and all the fun shading. And we're even going to dabble with a little highlighting today. So I'm just base coating this white. Good morning, Anna and Laura. Hey, Sheila. How are you doing? Darling, how are you feeling? I'm in some pain. Every morning I wake up and it feels less painful. I can move it. I need to be mindful of how I move it. I can't the doctor didn't give me restrictions on weight. He said, let my pain be my guide. And my pain says, don't lift anything. So I really haven't been lifting much with that arm that requires the muscles to really stay tense. I've been trying. I have been able to work to this. Now, this is me putting my hand on my hip. I have been standing with my hand on my hip. Please don't think that I have an attitude if you see me standing with my hand on my hip. I'm just trying to keep my shoulder from locking up. If you ever see me in public and you're like, oh, she's a little sassy, got that hand on the hip. Nope, I'm just trying to keep my shoulder from locking up. Because for those who don't know, this past week, we were supposed to paint our rock and roll gnome last week. But midweek on Wednesday, I decided let's go ahead and break my arm. Just break it. So I broke my arm. The thing about it is when the orthopedic surgeon looked at it, he said it's in a weird spot and it's not a clean break. So a cast or a sling or any kind of restraint is not going to be in your best interest. Actually, just going about regular life is going to help it heal faster without having to do any PT later on. And I'm like, oh, great. So that's what we're just toughing it out, which is probably how I would have done it anyways, unless it was like some massive break. But I did break my arm. They kept calling it my elbow, but it's actually my forearm right here before you get to the actual crook of your elbow. Well, hello. How are you doing? Hey, Priscilla. We also watched it this past week. It was a good movie. It was a very colorful. Let's put it that way. It's obviously not a biopic. I love a good documentary or a biopic. I love Elvis. But it had some creative freedom in that. I loved seeing it from different perspectives though. It was a good movie. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I'll probably watch it again, but probably not all in one sitting. All right. So we're going to let that dry. I'm going to try and get rid of this little shadow. There goes hold on. We're going to turn the camera off so nobody gets seasick. Hold on. I was trying to get rid of that shadow. Oh, that hurt. Let's see if we can do that again. How about that? Yeah, that got rid of the shadow. There we go. We had a little funky shadow going on. I was trying to get y'all at a good angle so you can see the brush strokes a little better, but we'll go with this instead. I'd much rather you see it without a shadow because sometimes that shadow can get in the way. Let's see. Let's just clean that up. Not too worried about brush strokes. This is just a light clear coat because this is a light white coat only because a good bit of his costume is white, right? Right? I would have done it anyway because I'm stubborn. And if you know me, I don't really like taking pain meds. So I'm taking an anti-inflammatory for the break and Tylenol because I'm not big on pain meds. So that's how my treatment's going. Hey Nicole, hope you're feeling better. You're at a doctor's appointment with my client, so I'll have to catch the replay. Hey Sharon, my blanks will be here later this week. Yay! Did you grab an Elvis gnome? I can't really call him an Elvis gnome, even though y'all know that's what he is. He's a rock and roll gnome. You know, don't want to step on toes. Don't want to step on toes anywhere. All right, so let's go ahead. Let me reach behind me and get one of my paint rags that fell on the floor. Okay. All right, I'm going to do a quick second coat on anywhere where there's going to be white. So his collar, the rim of his coat or cloak or cape, that's the word, cape, his pants, and that's about it. So let's go ahead and just do a quick second coat just to make sure we have good coverage there. No paint strokes. All right. Not really being very fussy about it. Just getting it nice and solid coverage. Everything else is going to be built up with other paint colors. So I'm not real worried about it, especially his hat. That's going to be either a dark charcoal gray or it's going to be black. But I want to make sure his cape has really good coverage because when we go in to do the shading on that, we don't want to have any paint strokes. My nose was itching. Any paint strokes that are going to be kind of distracting. We want it to be nice and clean. If we do a good job on our base coats and our color blocking, everything else tends to fall in place and look a lot sharper because our firm foundation was set up right. So let's go ahead and blow dry that again. Hey, Terry. Hey, Jennifer. I found your page and templates recently, and I made 2 of the pumpkins with witch hats on for yard art. Oh, that's so cool. How big did you make them? Did you make them door hanger size? I just have to add stakes to them. I can't wait. I would love to see them as yard art. That's going to be fun. Aren't they cute? They'd be really cute Halloween decorations. Like cutesy, not scary. Which is my kind of Halloween. I like the cutesy. I'm not big into scary. Good morning, good morning. Elvis is coming. Yep. Oh, wait. Someone says something, one of the scenes. Okay, so Sheila says, I want to watch it again to see what I missed by some of the colorful scenes that confused me. I'm telling you, they were just colorful. Like, it reminded me of a comic book. Like, it was a good movie. It was more like a comic book. I have this big old... That's what... Okay. I was going to say, there's just one strand of hair that's just confusing my brain there. It's very distracting. Okay. So now that we've got the majority of our white, let's go ahead and go full table, which means I'm going to go off to the side. And we're going to get more of our design in here with us. Let's see. Labor Day weekend, my grandson had a really bad bike wreck, lost his brakes. Going down a hill. Oh, reading it, I'm already scared. Went off the road and down 6 feet embarkment through the fit. 7-hour surgery. Oh, it's making my arm hurt just thinking about it. He broke both elbows. Ow. Gosh, Laura, his poor arms. That just made, oh man, I'm getting, my arms are hurting just thinking about that. Okay, so I'm going to grab, I cleaned all my brushes the other day. Let's see what this is. Of course, oh man, I don't have the size anymore. I think that's a 1/2 inch because this right here is an 3/8. So my absolute favorite brushes are angle brushes. And the ones that I use the most are 3/8 and a 1/2 inch. Okay, so this is a 1/2 inch right here. This is a 3/8. You see the difference in size? Like I'm going to put them tip to tip. See how much more brush there is in a 1/2 inch. I like a 3/8 because on a smaller piece like this, it gets in these little itty bitty little corners right here without putting too much paint down. So they are, you made the, okay, so Jennifer, she made them door hanger size. For now, just to try it out, they're adorable. I cannot wait to see them. So here we go. We have our 3/8 inch brush. Now, we will be hopping over to the 1/2 inch brush, but on these itty bitty little details down here, we will definitely be using the 3/8 inch, okay? So let's go ahead and work on his sunglasses. Let's go ahead and knock those out. That's the hardest part of this entire design. We're going to take Purple Rain. Oh, there is one color I didn't pull out. And it is Calypso Blue. Let's see if I can find it. A Vivid Blue. Calypso Blue. Where are you hiding? Ocean Blue would work too. What's this one? This one will work. Ocean Blue. Yep, let's go with Ocean Blue. Oh, that hurt. Wait, this may be Calypso Blue. Crisp Blue. Let's just go with this one. This will work. So we got Ocean Blue, but I would prefer Calypso Blue. It's just brighter, funner. And this right here is Purple Rain. So for the ombre, let's go ahead and put down our blue. We're just going to put a swipe of blue. Okay. I'm not worried about any of this showing through. It is going to show through. I'm just going to have to be super careful. Okay, so I'm going to paint his entire nose. I'm going to paint the majority of his nose this purple just to be careful. Okay, so we're just going to put a little bit of that Purple Rain. Okay. Let me clean my brush. We're going to work fast on this part, okay? Because we do not want our colors drying. Because we want to kind of mesh them together seamlessly. So now I've got the blue, I've got the purple down. I'm going to add blue to one side, white to the other. Okay, so I have two colors on my brush. It doesn't matter what type of brush you use, an angle brush, a flat brush, both of them will work. I'm going to just, and I'm going to add a little bit more white because that blue's taken over. I'm just adding a little glare of white in between the two colors. It's not very noticeable, but this is one of those steps that's going to help you blend your colors together. Now I have the purple and the white. I'm going to match purple to purple, white to white. And I'm going to start, I'm going up about 1/4 inch and down about 1/4 inch. So every time I swipe this way, I'm slightly moving up and down the element of the glasses. So the glasses are right here. Every time I went this way, I was going up and up about 1/4 inch and back down and back down. I was just swiping back up and back down. And that'll give you that seamless ombre look. Let's blow dry that because I like how it turned out. The trip to the wedding went really well. It was really fast. I got there, the next day was the wedding, and the very next morning, super early in the morning, I headed back home. But it was good. While I was there, I got to spend time with my cousin, and I got to spend time with family I don't normally get to see very often, and celebrate my cousin as she was getting married. We were all so excited for her. It was a good day. It really was a good trip. It really, really, really was. Let's make sure that's a little wet still. So let's go ahead and blow dry just a little bit more. Hey, Stacy. I'm happy that you're here live with us too. It's gonna be a good one. Okay, so if you have any questions about what I'm using or the techniques that I'm doing, don't hesitate. Put your questions down in the comments. I will try to get to them as best as I can during the live, but if I miss you, don't worry. I'll come back and I'll answer them after the live is over, okay? And that clinking you're hearing is my paint cup. And one step I did forget is I normally put brush cleaner in my paint water, just a little bit, just a teeny tiny little splash. Nothing to, not gonna lather it up or anything. I just like to keep a little bit of paint water, brush cleaner in my paint water. It does not affect the paint on your brush when you're painting. All it does is help keep your brushes clean and the paint broken down while they're sitting in the water as you're painting. Okay. Let's go ahead and take some of this white. We're going to try and fussy paint around those sunglasses just to kind of tone down, and on his nose, just to tone down some of this purple and blue, because purple and blue are sneaky. Okay. I'm just going to do a little base coat. That way when we go to do our flesh tone color later on, because the nose is one of the last things that we paint, because it's the thing that's most up front and in your face. And it's going to be the easiest thing to paint, to be honest. Let's see, I'm going to kind of fussy paint around these glasses where the gray is going to be. I just don't want all that pink, not pink, that purple and that blue to peekaboo through any other layer of paint that we put down. White, it will show through white, so we're going to be extra, extra careful to try and get our white nice and built up. There's no way to really be careful when doing an ombre like that, especially a ombre placement like these sunglasses are. I'm not too worried about the brim of the hat. We're going to be painting that dark charcoal gray or black anyways. That will cover and cancel out any other color underneath. But these brighter colors, they cannot cancel out that blue and that purple, especially since that purple has some red in it, because that's how you make purple. So we're going to let that dry, and we're going to do one more coat. And then, speaking of red, we're going to go ahead and fussy paint the red of his paint. Y'all don't forget, if you would like the color list after I'm done painting, if you put the word gnome in the comments, I'll come back after the live and give you not only the color list, but the links to where you can find the printable template or the JPEG if you'd like to make one of these as well. And also the wooden blank. I'm painting a 10-inch porch leaner attachment. If I was to paint a door hanger size, I would be painting a 22-inch. I love 22 inches for my door hangers. I think they're the perfect size, especially for a standard door. They're nice and big without being overpowering. So you can, if you like to decorate, you can decorate around that and still have some space to decorate. But they're also, a 22 inch is big enough to stand alone. You don't necessarily have to decorate around it. Okay, so there we go. Nice clean brush strokes. So the word gnome, that's your secret word for today. If you'd like to find where you can get the printable template or the JPEG or the wooden blank. Also, I'll be able to drop down the paint list that I'm using today. That way you don't have to write it down or try to remember it off the top of your head, or try to look at the mock-up and guess at what's there. I'll provide it for you, no big deal. And if you're a Paint Studio member, don't forget, since this is a public design, don't forget to use your 40% discount on templates and JPEGs. Okay, so let's blow dry that. And then we're going to go into this, the bottom of the cape, and fussy painting some of this red in. I want to go ahead and just knock that out. Red is one of the colors I like to wait till last to paint, just because it likes to hide in your brush and in your brush water. But I want to knock it out. I want to get it out of the way. Diana, I'm feeling a little bit. Every morning I wake up and I realize that I have a little bit more mobility without pain. So I'm hoping within the next couple of days, next week or so, I'll be able to. I'm trying not to hit my hand. It's such a habit. I've been hitting my shoulder over here to kind of mix up my paints. I've been trying to really just be positive about it because there's not a whole lot I can do. I'm switching over to my 3/8, so I was using my 1/2 inch right there. Switching over to my 3/8, and I'm just going to fussy paint, which just means I'm going to be very careful to keep my lines super straight, especially along this white and the gray of his beard, okay? I'm not too worried about his shoes. They're going to be black. The pants are going to be white, so I'm going to be up on the chisel. This is going to require 2 coats. Okay, and I'm just using the very toe of my brush to kind of help guide my brush along the edges. You can also, with light pressure, go up on the chisel and use the chisel of your brush to guide the edges as well. You just don't want a lot of paint on your paintbrush when doing that. You want to knock the majority of it off or pick up very, very little. Okay. How are y'all doing? It's starting to feel like fall over here, although we have what's called fake fall. It'll feel like this for a week or so, and then all of a sudden the heat waves come back, and we're back at 90-degree heat. So I'm not trusting the nice crisp mornings that we're getting the last couple of mornings. I'm like, oh, this is fake fall. Let me not fall for its trick this year. Let me prepare myself. Let me not pack up my shorts quite yet. Oof. Okay, this is where it starts to hurt, when I have to use my left arm to kind of rotate things. All right, so I'm knocking out the majority of the excess paint on my brush in the center of the design. And I'm using the chisel or the toe to kind of outline the edge. And this is going to help us keep our paint strokes nice and clean without paint buildup. Like I said, this red is going to require 2 coats, especially us doing thin coats. I'd rather you do 2 thin coats than 1 big sloppy messy coat, especially with red. Red likes to show its paint strokes. So let's go ahead and just do easy, breezy, clean strokes. If we do really good base coats, then the shading and the highlighting will look 10 times better. Those base coats and color blocking coats really make a difference. And that's what we're doing right now. We're just color blocking. Same in Arkansas. It's gorgeous this morning, but this weather won't last. It won't. It's manipulative. It'll make you think that, oh, look, I'm your best friend. You can put up your shorts, pull out the sweaters. Don't let it lie to you. It's lying. We can't trust it till almost October. Okay, so there's coat number 1. Let's come back over to this first section. It's almost completely dry. You can blow dry it if you want to, but mine's almost complete. It's dry to the touch. So I can go ahead and start doing a second coat just for full coverage. Now, if you have a red that you're not a big fan of, but you like the color of it and it's not giving you good coverage even after maybe the second coat, what I highly recommend, it depends on if it's a deep red or a bright red. I would consider this a bright red, okay? A deep red would be like your cranberries, your brick reds, stuff like that. Your crimsons. This one right here is definitely a bright cherry. It's cherry-er than most. It's still got a darkness to it, but it's still bright. I would recommend, if you're doing a brighter red, put a coral undercoat under it. Your first coat should be coral, like a nice, thick, bright coral. If you're doing a deeper red, put a gray, like a darker gray. So that way your color of red is being complemented by its undercoat. If you put a coral under a darker red, it's going to brighten up that darker red, and it's going to change it a little bit. If you put a darker gray, not a charcoal gray, but like just a mid-tone darker gray under it, it will help keep that deepness, but give it a nice undercoat for it to build up upon and not have to do as many coats. Okay, so there's that red. I will have to touch that up in just a minute, but we're not ready for that yet. Let's go ahead and base coat is beard. And we're going to do that with gray sky. And we may even lighten it up with some white. Ghost it out a little bit. So let's try this. Go ahead and just paint his beard and his mustache. Gray sky. And I told you I don't like painting red first because it's already snuck up into my gray. But that's okay. We can erase it. Yeah, see all that red right there? We're going to try and clean that out. I can't wait to paint this guy for my mom. Brenda, I can't wait for you to paint this guy for your mom. This one's for me. He is going on my porch later. I cannot wait for it. And he may be my Halloween porch later. I don't know. Just because, I don't know. Just sounds fun to have Elvis on your porch later for Halloween. He can also be January because Elvis's birthday is in January. It could be August. You know how there's not really anything going on in August to where you have anything themed. You normally have to do something for like back to school because there's not really a whole lot going on in August as far as calendar wise. He would be a good August one because that's the month that Elvis passed away. So a lot of people associate August with Elvis, but his birthday was in January. She's loving school. Terry, she loves school. Now we did have to switch teachers. Her original teacher, and it's been a transition. I don't know if I'm a fan of the switch, not because of the teacher, just because, you know, she's struggling a little bit with she was learning one teacher's rules, and now she's having to learn a whole new classroom because the original teacher that she had was asked to go help with another school. There was a school in our area that had more kids than they expected, and so they needed to add 2 more classrooms for kindergarten. There's still red creeping up in my brush. So her teacher it was not her first year to teach, but it was her first year to teach in our parish, which is like our county. So they pulled her, and now she went from, practically new teacher, veteran teachers and new teachers. They're 2 totally different creatures, right? Veteran teachers who've been teaching for 20 something years, which is what she has now. They have, they're set in their ways. They have ways of doing things. And new teachers are just now building their ways. And so Raylin went from a new teacher to a veteran teacher. So I think that's the hardest part of the transition. But she'll survive. She'll be fine. She will be more than fine. But she is loving it. She's struggling academic-wise. But she'll be fine. She did great in preschool, but now she's struggling with some of the things that she knew prior to starting kindergarten. I don't know if I just let her get too lazy over the summer, but the letters and number, she knows her number is solid, no problem there. But the letters that she knew, she's acting like she doesn't know her letters anymore, and that I don't know if that's just her wanting attention or if that's we probably need a good refresher. So that's what we've been working on at home is working on some of her letters. So all I'm doing is I'm putting a nice little base coat on his little nose. Remember I told y'all that purple and that blue is going to want to peekaboo through these lighter colors. So I'm doing since I have gray on my brush, I want to do everything I can to set myself up for success. As far as especially his nose. His nose is going to be the thing that people look at the most. It's the first thing that your eye gravitates towards. So let's go ahead and try our best to set ourselves up for success. Laura says, I watched the new Elvis movie last night. Kind of liked it, but it wasn't very smooth running. And that bothered me. Yes. Okay. So I'm not the only one. Yes. It did seem like it hopped. It hopped a lot. It wasn't like it's kind of like it kind of picked and made a buffet plate, at a buffet, you just kind of pick here and there. It seemed like it hopped from, there weren't very smooth transitions between different times in his life. It's like it was a hard transition from childhood to just starting out at the hayride, which is right down the street for me, to, meeting Priscilla was like, oh, all of a sudden there's this chick in his life. And, there weren't these, really smooth transitions. But other than that, and the cartooniness of it all, it was a good movie. Oh, Miss Pam, we may have to do a tutorial with her just so that she can hop on because she thinks I haven't been teaching at all since she started school. But I just haven't taught since I've hurt myself. I'm very thankful my arm is feeling good enough to be able to at least move the little bit that I need it to move. All right, that gray is patchy, but that's okay. We're gonna fix that here in just a second. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take an angle brush, my 1/2 inch angle. I'm gonna add some white. So I've got my brush with white, and I've got I just added some gray to it. No rhyme or reason. It's just a little bit of both. I'm going to start on the beard. Okay. And I'm just filling this in. Okay. Actually, I should have started on the biggest part of his beard because it's kind of underneath. Okay, this is totally skippable. You could have just left it color blocked with the gray. I'm just following the shape of his beard and following it all the way up and letting those colors this is what I consider messy painting. Okay, nothing fancy about it. It just puts 2 colors of paint on the wood at the same time, and I'm just letting the brush, the paint, and the wood decide what goes where. Okay, I do want a little bit more gray in that. I just wanted to kind of brighten up his beard. That color block was a nice base coat for us to come in and be able to messy paint. That way, if we missed a spot with a paint stroke, it's not that noticeable. Okay, because that base coat is the exact same color as one of the colors in here. And if you notice, you see little streaks of gray, you see little streaks of white, but you don't see anything in big chunks. The brush is super messy. I'm going to dip it in the white. I'm going to dip it in the gray. Now, I am contaminating both of those puddles of paint. Okay, I want you to see this. Okay, see that gray? There's white and gray. It's no longer going to be solid gray. So if I want gray all by itself, I'm going to have to pour a whole new puddle of paint. But at this point, I think I'm pretty much done with my gray. So messy painting is going to be just fine. Now I'm going to come back in on his mustache and paint it section by section. Being careful not to overpaint into his glasses because we worked really hard. Now there is a product that you can use if you want to protect something like that. And we have used it over in the paint studio, and we're going to be using it again here in the next month or so. And it's called masking fluid. But you can mask off something that you're afraid of messing up. You can mask it off with that masking fluid, and it peels off like masking tape. It's a liquid though. It peels off like masking tape when you're done with it. All right, so I'm going to just go ahead and, like I said, just throw in. I'm not worried about getting it on his nose. It's fine. I just want to make sure I don't overwork some of these paint strokes. I really want it to be messy painted. And those brush strokes to kind of showcase those colors without them becoming a whole new shade of something. Okay, there we go. And doing too many brush strokes like I'm doing can really mess it up. So I want to leave it alone. I'm going to leave it alone. So we're going to blow dry that. Let's go back to his cake. She would love to do a tutorial. I'm going to have to find something for her to paint. Maybe I can find her a ceramic to paint or something while I do a tutorial. She could be out to the side painting her little ceramic. She loves doing that kind of stuff. I still have your mermaid paper that you sent us. I have an idea for it. I just got to find time for me to sit down and explain it to Raylyn. There's a big old paint chunk right there that's not completely dried, but we're going to leave it alone. I am going to go ahead. I'm going to clean my brush. I'm going to touch up his pants because I got a little bit of gray on his pants. A little bit of gray on his pants, and I just want it to be white, so I'm going to touch that up. And if I can't get that completely gone, I can take some sandpaper. No biggie, but I think I can touch it up with just some water. So there's one coat. Oh yeah, we were able to touch that up. Oop. All right, let's go back and do that sneaky red. See, it's real patchy. We're going to go back in with that about a half a coat. It's not going to be a full third coat. It's just going to be a half a coat. And I'm not going all the way to the edge on any of it. The reason I went ahead and hopped over to the beard, I wanted this red to really dry and get real nice bone dry before I did this very last half a coat. Sometimes paint can just stay wet enough for it to move around. It can feel dry to the touch, but unless it's bone dry, you're really not building coverage. You're just moving wet paint. Wet paint moves wet paint, and it will cause frustrations if you don't allow it to fully dry sometimes. You're like, why is my paint not covering? Well, it's probably still too wet. It may not seem like it, but if you walk away and let it completely dry, sometimes letting it air dry is better than blow drying it. Although you'll see me use this blow dryer or my heat gun or heat tool religiously, just because it does speed things along for us here. Hey, Miriam. Okay, so I didn't do actual sideburns because the brim of his hat came down to the side of his face, and I was like, that's kind of like sideburns. That's kind of like sideburns. I like to keep my gnomes super simple. I don't want them to ever be intimidating because I feel like they need to be user friendly for all, right? All right, let's go ahead and get our sugared peach going and base coat his little nose. Because when we start to do our shading, I just want to go ahead and start knocking it all out. All right, sugared peach for his hands and his nose. So I'm just going to go ahead and carefully paint. Right now, all we're doing is color blocking, which just means we're just putting our base coats down. Remember, if we do a good job on these base coats, when we come back in with our highlights, and we are going to be highlighting today, our highlights and our shading or shadows, it's going to be 10 times easier to make it look nice. Try not to keep my elbow attached to my body. That's what's locking up my shoulder. Can't remember if it was Sheila or if it was Christy Rayner that was like, make sure your shoulder doesn't get locked up. And I was like, I know. I kept feeling my shoulder come up to my ear. And that's how you know your shoulder is getting locked up. Okay, so we're just going to do our first coat on his nose. It's going to require 2 coats of this sugared peach. I wish I had a more olivey tone, skin tone color, because you remember Elvis was kind of olive toned. He had some really nice tan skin, but we'll go with sugar peach. Okay, there's our first coat. We do need to do his little lip. Let's go ahead and get a smaller angle brush, or 3/8. I'm not going to worry about inside of his mouth yet. We'll come back in with our paint pen at the very end and color in the inside of his mouth. I just want to get right here on the inside of his lip. There we go. Keep picking up brushes that I think are angles in here. I have way too many brushes going on in my paint water. Gotta curl his lip like Elvis. I tried getting a curled lip on the template, and it just never looked right. It always looked like he had like this deformity to his mouth, and I was like, we'll leave that off. Someone more talented than me will figure out how to do that part. Now, I think it was Sheila. Was it Sheila or Lori or Nancy? Someone in the paint studio was like, ooh, I'm going to paint him like a vampire too. And I thought that was super cool because of the cape. All they have to do is just paint him in Halloween colors and put 2 little fangs right here. And he'd be a cute little vampire. Be super, super cute. Okay, there we go. Now let's blow dry his nose because we need to get a good coverage on his nose. He's starting to really come along, isn't he, Shaylin? He's starting to come along. Oh, will you be painting this evening, Cindy? What are you going to be painting? What's going to be your first big project? Yeah, okay, so that's why, because my gnome always has a bottom lip like that. And the upper lip, whenever I added the upper lip, it just looked funky. And let's be real. Back in the day, I'm pretty sure that when Elvis hit the scene, that curled lip was probably a little. They're like, what's going on? What's going on with him? And it just became an iconic move for him. But I'm pretty sure starting off, it was people kind of looked at him sideways, like, "Are you okay up there?" Okay, there's our second coat. I'm not in a hurry. Oh, are you talking to Cindy? Oh, you're talking to Cindy. I thought you said when you said sending Cindy, I thought you meant painting, and I was like, I kind of want to know what you're painting. Now I get what you're talking about. You and Terry are having a little sidebar conversation there. What's that? Well, you just talk away. Talk away. It is not bothering me one little bit. Okay, so let me look. I think we're ready for the black, but I'm not going to do black. Let's do almost black. I'm going to do zinc. I'm probably going to put a little black in the zinc because I do want it to be a little darker. I don't think I have a darker gray. I thought I did. Hold on. Let me see. Let me turn this around. If I do, I can't find it. So we're going to take the zinc. I'm going to add a little bit of black to it just to deepen it just a little bit more. Okay. I'm going to muddy it up just a little bit. I'm going to use my 3/8 only because this right here on the sides, they are very small and I don't want to overpower the element with a brush that's too big. I can hear my dog over there just snoring away. All right, so let's go ahead and start fussy painting that in without over painting, because remember, making sure we do nice, clean base coats sets us up for success when we go into shade or highlight. Okay, so all this on the very edge is black, or in our case, this homemade black, because it's a little gray. It's a little gray with some black in it. So this was the decor zinc, and I added some black to deepen it, so it's not jet black. Okay. There we go. And now all this right here is black in between his sunglasses and his hat. Now, unless I just miss a spot, I shouldn't have to do a second coat of this. That, or if I get too messy with the shading of it. Using super light pressure. I'm not pushing down on my brush. If you notice, whenever I'm going right up against something, I'm not bending my bristles. I'm keeping it super light on the pressure. Now I'm bending my bristles because I have kind of free range right here, right? I have plenty of wiggle room. I could have bumped up in brush size, but since my brush is already dirty, let's just go ahead and keep on keeping on with it. Black is like red. It kind of likes to creep in, so we want to be super careful with it once we're done painting it, because I am going to have to use this 3/8 inch again. Okay, let's paint. I keep wanting to say color because I've been helping Raylyn with her homework, and a lot of it's coloring. But let's paint in the very tip of his hat. Okay. There we go. We want to do his feet. So let's go ahead and do his feet. Our dogs have been barking all day long. They've been they're repaving your road, and they have been continuously barking since they started this morning. Thank you, Lord. Oh man. So Romo has been just helping himself to leaving the front door, especially in the afternoons if Raylyn rides the bus home, which isn't every day. But on the days that she does, if I'm still home, then he knows that she's getting off the bus. And I have let him go out a couple of times to get her off the bus because she's the only one at the bus stop. And so there's no other kids that he can interact with or any, walkers or anything like that. By the time she gets off the bus, it's just her and the bus. And so there was a couple of days in a row where I'm like, okay, well, let's let him out. It was a nice day. And I was like, let's let him out in the front yard and see if he can handle it. And he did fine. But he still wanted to kind of venture off. And so I don't quite trust him quite yet. But he feels entitled to about the time that she gets off the bus. That he can kind of sense it. And he's like, let's go. It's bus time. And I'm like, dude, I wasn't intending to let you out today. Yes, I am going to shade a little bit on the hat. I'm actually going to highlight the hat instead of shading it because it is so dark. Even though we did tone it down, black isn't going to be dark enough to really do a whole lot of control on that. But we will be highlighting it a little bit. Now that she has said that, and I'm trying to think. Okay. Sheila's talking about the sideburns. I was looking at Sheila's comment. So Sheila's comment says, now that she has said that and painted it, I totally agree. She's talking about the sideburns. It does look like sideburns. See, I didn't put sideburns on it because I was like, the side of the hat kind of looks like the sideburns, and I don't want there to be too much going on. I think it looks fine. Okay. So now we've got all of our base coating, our color blocking going on. Let's go ahead and get into some shading. Let's start with the Alizarin Crimson for the cape. You find my 3/8. Remember, I like to use my 3/8 brush. I was a good girl and I put it off to the side. We're going to use Alizarin Crimson for this Santa red. So I'm going to get a new tray out. Okay. Get a new tray. And I'm going to put my Alizarin Crimson, just a little dot. It doesn't take much. Just get a little dot. And we're going to get our floating medium. Okay. And I know a lot of people are having trouble finding floating medium. You can order it on Amazon. But for some reason, they took it out of the big box stores. I'm just going to dip my brush in the floating medium. And I'm going to wiggle, 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 wiggle. Make sure that there's no paint creeping up. Oh, and look. There is paint inside of my brush. So let's go ahead. Try and clean that really good. Okay. Dip it again in the floating medium. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. Yep. Now we're good. I'm going to put it on the toe of the brush. Okay. And I'm going to just make a little swatch. Now, this ends up not being dark enough because sometimes the reds can kind of need a little help, but this one should be fine. We're just going to go, and it's like coloring. Okay. As long as the edge of the floating medium side of my brush, which is the back end of my brush, because the only place we put paint on was the toe. As long as that toe is the only thing that has paint on it, then we should be fine. We shouldn't have to clean our brush too terribly often. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry. I am going to want to deepen that up. Okay, I am going to want to deepen that up. But the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to build it up in layers, okay? I don't want to necessarily change the color because I know these colors work well together. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a thin layer. Let it dry. I'll come back and do a second layer and build it up. I am going to want to go ahead and do around his beard too, but I want to let this dry first so that I can actually do it without smearing it. Honestly, was just being funny about it. The sideburns meant no offense. No, God, Sheila, I never thought you. I didn't take offense. Don't you dare think that. Don't think that. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Did not take offense to it. Not one little bit. Believe me, I wanted there to be a curled lip, and I wanted there to be a sideburns, and there were a couple. I wanted there to be a microphone, but the microphone looked a little obscene in his hand. I was like, I'm gonna take that microphone out. If you catch my drift, that microphone just didn't look right. I've done a microphone before, and on another, I want to say it was another gnome, and it looked fine, but there was something about this gnome that anytime I put something in his hand, it just didn't look right. And I was kind of upset about it. All right, so I want you to look. So here's layer number 1. See how layer number 2 got just a little bit deeper? And that's how I want it. I'm going to leave it just like that. I don't want it to be super distracting. We're just adding some definition. We're just adding separation between colors. So here comes coat number 2. Sometimes you just need to build the color up. You don't need to change the color. You just need to build it up. But if you do want to change the color, add a little bit of gray to that Alizarin Crimson. Maybe the same gray that we did the beard with. Don't add black. Black is going to be too much to try to control. Just add maybe some charcoal gray. Okay. Let's blow dry that so we can finish out underneath his hands and underneath his beard and behind his little legs. Because this is the layer that goes furthest in the back. We want to make sure that it has all the shadows. Hey, Becca. I'm feeling a little better. Every day I wake up and I feel a little bit better. It still hurts, but I'm making it. I'm going to make it. I'll tell you one thing. I'm not going to pick up not another hula hoop. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and add a little gray. So all I'm doing is I'm going to add a little bit of gray to the toe of my brush, just like I did with the Alizarin Crimson. And I'm just going to work it into that. That way, maybe we can get this done in one coat instead of 2 coats. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Much better. Okay, so I'm going around his little hand. It's just lifting his hand. It's making his hand look like it's sitting on top, and that that cape is definitely behind him. Now I'm going to wait to do this section right here because I want to let this dry a little bit. So we're going to do this section, okay? So we're just making his beard and his pants pop. I'm using super light pressure. Super light, okay? Super duper light. So I'm reloading my brush, getting a little bit of red, a little bit of gray. I'm just putting the very tip of my brush in the paint and then swiping it in my little swatch that I made. And the reason I like these little meat trays is because they keep the paint nice and wet. It doesn't soak into the meat tray. It just kind of sits on top of it so that I have a little bit longer to work with, especially these custom colors that I'm making, right? I am going to blow dry, even though this right here is practically dry, but I want to make sure it's good and dry before I go and do that last little bit of his beard. And don't worry, we are going to be adding a little bit of highlight at the very, very end. So I'm up on the chisel, and then I slowly start to flatten out my brush as I move down. Okay. Up on my chisel. Not really putting a lot of pressure. There we go. And see how his beard and everything looks like it just took a step closer to your face instead of looking two-dimensional. All right, I'm going to clean my brush. So you broke it with a hula. Now let's get the story straight, okay, Miss Pam? Let's get that story straight. Y'all want to hear the story of how I broke it? Because everybody's laughed so far but me. Everybody has laughed but me. So to get the full gist of how my day went that day, let me start with earlier that afternoon. So y'all know we bought a piece of property this time last year, right? Haven't done a daggum thing with it, but I go out periodically, and I especially after a big rain, I go and check the property. While we're chatting, let me go ahead and decide what's our next step. I think I want to, let me look at my mock-up. I think I want to separate a little bit of his beard. So I'm going to check since we played with red. Okay, my brush is nice and clean. See how this right here is real nice and clean. I'm going to go in with just the zinc. Remember, we muddled this with white, so zinc will not be overpowering. I don't want a lot. I just want a little bit. Okay. Make me a little swatch of zinc. And we're just going to go underneath his mustache and just make his mustache and his lip pop up off of his beard. So we decided to go check out, when I say we, I mean me. I decided, let me go check on this property, make sure we don't have any fallen trees or anything that needs to be done. There were a couple of to-dos I needed to mark off my list as far as the builder, because we are going to build on it. I mean, we don't have a start date. I mean, we're not rushing. We're just, I'm just staying on top of it, right? So I'm out there and my wheels get stuck in a ditch that I didn't know existed on the property. So I spend an hour out there waiting for someone to come and help me out. So that was how my day started. I should have known that it was just one of those situations where I just needed to go get back in bed and just kind of ride the rest of the day out and just call it a day, right? So I'm going to go underneath this little right here, this little tuft of hair. So fast forward, kids are home. I'm cooking dinner. Well, I started to cook dinner, okay? Hadn't actually turned anything on, but I had started prepping everything. And then Graham comes home. I start cooking dinner because it was a quick and easy dinner that night. I eat, the kids eat. We start giving baths. Graham comes back out here. He's doing something with his phone. I decide, we put Raylan to bed. It's the end of the night, right? So we put Raylan to bed, and I want to deepen this up just a little bit. See how this is real defined over here? I want to define this a little bit more. So I'm going to load it back up with that floating medium. Make sure it's clean. It is. Pick up a little bit of that zinc. I'm not picking up a lot. Actually, I picked up way more than I wanted to, so I'm going to walk it out. So I picked up way more. So I'm going to just, as I swipe my brush, I'm going to move this way with it, okay? Calling it walking it out. I'm going to walk it out. Just so there's just a little bit on my brush. I don't want it to be super heavy because this already has one layer of that zinc. I want to just build it up to where it looks a little bit closer to that. I'm just using the toe of my brush to kind of, as a ballpoint pen, and draw it in there. Okay, there we go. Much better. Love that. I am going to go up underneath his nose and do the same thing because that nose is going to cast a shadow, and also up underneath his glasses. So as I finish the story of the hula hoop that took me down, it took me down, y'all. So I was sitting there just joking around with Graham. He was sitting over here kind of close to where I'm sitting now, and I was on the other side of the room. And Raylyn had left a bunch of toys out. Well, I decided, I'm just going to make a pile of toys. And in the morning, she can wake up and put them up. But I just want them out of the way. So I didn't want to put them up because it's her responsibility. So I'm sitting there and I'm just making her a little pile of toys. And then I realized the hula hoop was in the room. And I was like, well, that's an outside toy. I'll go ahead and put that outside. But I saved it for last. So I made the little pile of toys, done with that. And I turned around. 2 steps to the left, no, to the right. 2 steps to the right was the hula hoop. And I had already played with it because there was something I wanted to show Graham. I was just joking around. I was like, look what I can do. And I threw the hula hoop in front of me. Oop, I just broke the phone. And I made it boomerang back to me. And he was like, so impressed. So proud of you. That's so much talent right there. And we were just joking around. And I had thrown the hula hoop off to the side. Like I said, I was going to clean up those other toys first and then take the hula hoop outside. When it was time at the very end. Well, it was time, and I take the 2 steps close to the hula hoop, and in those 2 steps, my feet, I was in socks, and my floor is like tile floor. My socks just decided, we're not going to grip this floor, and both my feet just go whoop, and my hand hits the ground. I palm the ground just like that, and the doctor said, because you would think I would have broke my hand or my wrist, right? He said no. Usually whenever you hit like that, because there's so much surface right here that's hitting the object, it's evenly dispersed, but all that energy starts traveling up till it finds a weak spot. And apparently that was a weak spot in my arm. And he's like, that's where the break happens. I was like, oh, goodness gracious. So yes, it was a hula hoop, but I was not playing with it. I was cleaning it up. I was cleaning the house and broke my arm. So that's the story of how I broke my arm. Okay, so let's go ahead and add some more floating medium. We want to make sure that our brush is nice and clean, and it is. We're going to put, let's see, what color are we going to go with next? Let's go ahead and do I like to use Fawn. You can also use Burlap. Some people are having a hard time finding Fawn. It's real close to Burlap, so I'm just going to put a nice little drop of it here on my palette. This is just a nice deep flesh tone. That's why I like to use it. It's a nice, you can also use Pebble. Pebble has a dustier color to it. It looks a little dirtier, dingier. Burlap is about the same as Fawn. So all I'm going to do is kind of outline the bottom of his nose. Just give him a little bit of a shadow underneath his nose. And that makes it look round. I'm going to go about a little past halfway. See? Just adds a little bit of depth to his nose. I'm going to build it up and bring it up just a little bit more. I'm still using this 3/8 inch brush. Okay. We'll evaluate that and see how it does. We may add a little extra layer to it. But let's see what it does. Let's go ahead and do his little hands. Okay. So for his hands, I like to do the bottom of the thumb and the bottom of the hand. It just adds a little bit of shadow. See? Just a little bit of shadow. Remember, we're going to do a little bit of highlight too. I'm picking up a little bit of that Fawn. Like I said, you could also use Burlap. It'll work just fine. We're going to go bottom of the thumb. Just kind of curl it around. Bottom of the hand. That just adds a little bit of a shadow. And as much as I love his nose, I do want to add, I want to make it a little wider of the shadow. So I don't necessarily want to deepen it up. I just want to add more depth to it. So I'm going to start a little higher and work my way down. There we go. See how cute his little nose is? You don't want to start too high because you don't want the edge of your brush that has the floating medium to surpass the actual width of the brush. But look how cute and round his nose looks. We're going to add a little bit of highlight right here, so it's going to make it look super round, okay? Now let's add some shading to the white, and then we should be done pretty much with the shading, and then we'll come back in with some highlight. And I have special brushes that do the highlights. I'm going to clean my 3/8 brush. Slippery floor. I've done that in my kitchen before. I didn't break anything, just bruised things a bit. So Cindy, I have this big old massive bruise on my thigh too. So I did get some bumps and bruises, but I did break. They consider it my elbow, but the x-ray shows my forearm, but it's just really high up on my forearm. Okay, so we're going to take not the zinc. We're going to take the gray sky. Okay. Anytime you shade white, you don't want to shade it too dark. We just want to use something to break up the transitions, especially when there's white touching white. Okay, so we're just going to shade the very edge. And like I said, we can always come back if it's not dark enough. I'm not really going to shade the bottom of, it's just so tiny. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to shade right here. And right here, just to create this transition between the collar and the cape. And I think I missed a spot. This is supposed to be red, but I'm not going to worry about it. We're going to leave it as is. I'm not going to fussy paint the itty bitty little bit of red there. We're just going to pretend that was supposed to be white. Pick up a little bit of gray sky. Okay. Like I said, you can always build it up if you want it to be a little bit more noticeable. And I do. Doesn't have to be super, super duper dark. You just want it to be a shade or two darker than that white. Let me get you a little closer. Maybe you can see how it's just a little dingy looking. That's all you're looking for. That's it. There we go. I'm gonna leave it alone. Now we are going to want to do the inseam of his pants and on the very edge of his pants. That will make his legs look round. So I just cleaned my brush. I shouldn't have, but I did. I'm going to add a little bit of floating medium, not a lot, because there's some floating medium on my tray down here. Pick up a little bit of that gray sky. Okay. Let's go right here and watch. I'm going to go over his shoe. See how I went over a shoe? Guess what? I can just take my finger and smooth it out. Or you can take a baby wipe and smooth it out as well. That floating medium really gives you some wiggle room and some forgiveness. So don't worry if you overpaint something, because everything else is completely dry. it gives you some wiggle room. It gives you some wiggle room. So I'm going to do both sides. So I flip my brush around for each side so that the toe is towards the center of his leg. Little inseam. And we're going to let that dry and do a second coat. Remember, we did 2 coats on his collar. Okay, I got to run to the post office to ship out some orders. So glad you are doing better. I will see you later, Miss Pam. Safe travels to the post office. And I will see you later. I'll probably catch one of your lives later on this week. I've got a lot of designing to do. And when I design, I sit and watch people's lives. I like to have the noise in the background. Okay, so we're just building it up. All righty. So there's his, now his legs have a little bit of definition, but they're not so distracting. They have a little bit of shadow going around to make his leg look rounded, right? All right, let's add some, I think we're pretty good on the shading. I don't think we need any, well, no, he needs a little bit of shading on his lip. I wish I would have thought about that when I had it all loaded up. But the good thing about this meat tray, guess what? That's still wet. So all I have to do is just dab a little bit, make sure my brush is clean. And come and pick up a little bit of that Fawn or Burlap. Okay. So that's just throw a little bit on the bottom of his lip. Ta-da! Look how cute! I love him. I love him so much. So much. Okay, so let's blow dry him because before we do anything with his hat, we need to add his stars, okay? Remember, we're going to do some stenciling. I like to do my stenciling underneath shading and highlighting. So I don't like to stencil over my shading or my highlighting. I like to have that on top of the stenciling. And I have this really cute, I got it at Hobby Lobby. I don't know what brand it is because whatever brand it is, didn't label the actual stencil. They just labeled the, whatchamacallit, the label. The packaging, that's the word. So I'm just going to take this stencil and I think I'm just going to use this little corner right here. I just want these smaller stars and these medium-sized stars. Actually, I think I'm going to use this corner. I want all the different size stars in here. And we'll just kind of fit them in wherever they go, wherever they can go, actually. I'm going to grab a makeup sponge. I'm going to take the zinc, because remember we added zinc, black to the zinc. We're going to take the zinc, and that's going to be our stars. So I have just straight zinc on here, and I'm just going to lightly stencil these smaller couple sizes of stars in. Like I said, this is just a generic star stencil that I got from the craft store. I think I got it from Hobby Lobby. I'm pretty sure I got it for Hobby Lobby. I've used it with Mod Podge and glitter. I remember the project that I actually got it for. It was for a Night to Shine display piece. In my town, we do a Night to Shine through, and I created the design piece for one of our shine through stations, and I used this stencil to create some glittery stars. So there's a few stars. We're going to let that dry, and I'm just going to kind of fussy place. I'm just going to like very carefully place these stars in and around these bare spots. Let me see if I have any stars on the brim of my hat. So I'm going to avoid the brim of my hat. Okay, I'm just going to keep it here on the flat of the hat. So I'm going to just put those there. I'm just going to lightly tap, 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 tap. These are not the sponges from Dollar Tree. Please do not make that mistake. They are horrible for stenciling. They are horrible for stenciling. These are the ones from Dollar General. But you can get some pretty good ones on Amazon. See, I'm just kind of fussy placing those in. Kind of want one right there above the brim of the hat. Need one right there. It's kind of awkward right there. So let's find a smaller one. Go. Maybe a teeny tiny. I've got a teeny tiny little one right there. There we go. Maybe a teeny tiny one right there. Maybe a little half a one. Perfect. One over here. Go. They were good. They were good. And the reason there are stars is because was he not the biggest rock and roll star? So I was like, stars are appropriate. So I'm going to lay that off to the side. We're done with this. This was just a generic star stencil that had multiple size stars on it. Let's go ahead and blow dry that, and we'll do some highlighting. Who's ready for some highlighting? Y'all, don't forget, if you'd like the paint list for all the paints that I used here today, all you have to do is put the word Gnome in the comments, and I will come back later and I will drop the entire paint list of all the paint colors that I use, along with where you can get the printable template, where you can get the JPEG, or where you can order a wooden blank. I'm painting a 10-inch. It's actually, I think, 10 inches wide. I'm painting a 10-inch porch liner attachment. So let's see. Let's use, where are my, right here. So when it comes to highlighting, there's a couple of different brushes I use. They're all from right here. They're all from the same line of brushes. They're makeup brushes, to be honest. And they're just really soft, really round, really soft makeup brushes. So I'm going to use, they're Wet n Wild. I'm going to use this. Let me see if I can find something so that you can see how I do this. This hurts. Ooh, hurry up and get it. Get it. Oh, I need to pick this up. Please don't make a mess. I just need this one piece of paper. Okay. Woo! Enough. I was gonna be able to pick that up. All right, so let's put this up underneath our gnome because I want you to see the process that I do for shading and highlighting. So this is the Zinc, okay? This is the same color as our, and I'm going to add just a little bit of white. This is a skippable step. You do not have to do this, okay? I just want you to see my process for highlighting. So I'm just kind of mixing a color here. We're not going to do a whole lot of crazy highlighting. I'm just pouncing it into the brush, and then I'm going to swirl it out till there's almost hardly anything on this brush. Okay? Till there's hardly any paint transfer. I don't want any wet paint. This is a skippable step. This is not a make or break step. What this is going to do, I'm going to come up in here in the roundness and with the lightest little bit of pressure. I'm just going to add I'm going to buff it on there, okay? Just buffing it on the brim. Now, can you use floating medium and do this as well with floating medium? Absolutely. This part, I just like doing it. I just like doing it with this brush. This is a Wet n Wild makeup brush from the Dollar Tree. It used to be $1. Now it's $1.25, but whatever. It's still a good price for the perfect blending brush. If he had little cheeks, we'd put little rosy cheeks on with this. And to brighten it up, you just keep buffing. So what I do is I do a couple of buffs. I pick up my brush, take a look, do a couple more buffs, pick up my brush, take a look. I like where that's at. See how it just kind of lifts it and makes it a little bit more round? All right, so we're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to add zinc. Just a little bit of white. I'm going to add a little bit more zinc. I don't want it to be super, super bright. I just want it to be a little lighter than this right here. Because remember, we're highlighting with it. Okay, so we're going to buff it in. And we just want to kind of swirl it around until there's no more wet paint being transferred off. These are super easy to clean too. You clean them just like regular brushes. I dip mine in alcohol until the brush has completely released all of its paint, and then rinse it under warm water and then reshape it if it needs reshaping. So I'm going to buff right here at the very top. See, you can add it. See that little bit of lift right there? It's not completely covering my star. You still see the star. Okay. All it's doing is just adding a little bit of highlight. There's still a little bit of wet paint in this brush. So I'm going to lift up on the pressure. I'm not going to use as much pressure. See? Just adding just a little bit of dusting. Add it to the top of my hat. Let's see where else we want to add some. Oh, I want to go all the way down this line. Just add a line of highlight. So I'm just going in circular motions, not heavy pressure, just medium to light pressure. And I'm going to lift up. See what I like, see what I don't. See, I kind of want to concentrate a little bit more right here. A little bit more right here. A little bit more right here. Okay, so there's one little line of light or glimmer. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's see where our next one is. We want to go along here and make a second little line coming from this little crease. The template and the JPEG have the creases kind of already stationed in there for you, so you don't have to guess at where these creases are. And all I'm doing is I'm just extending those creases a little bit just to create some folds with the highlighting. See how it's kind of creating little folds? It looks like the hat is kind of folding in on itself by adding a little bit of light. That's all this is doing. It's just adding a little bit of illusion of light. I'm going to kind of fill this in just a little bit. And if you notice, I hadn't added any more paint to my brush. This is that same. I haven't loaded it. Not one little bit. Look how dimensional that looks. Now we need a queen gnome. Ooh, that would be a cute. I can do a queen gnome. Vanilla. I'm on it. I'm on it. Something for October is getting bumped to November because we're about to. October's getting a queen gnome. We're doing it. All right, so I'm just adding a little bit of highlight wherever I feel like the fabric would have folded in on itself a little bit. You know what this reminds me of? If this was navy blue with a little bit of a purple hint, it would have been like what is the magical Disney Mickey Mouse Fantasia, the Fantasia Mickey. So I'm just going to go ahead and buff on the very toe of his shoe. I'm just going to buff the center of it. Okay. Just to add some highlight to his toe. Again, I have not added any paint to this brush. It is fully, see all that gray paint in there? All I'm doing is this pretty much coloring into the grooves of the wood. It's grabbing all that gray paint. Make these look like shiny leather shoes. These should have been blue suede shoes, shouldn't they? But the blue and the red would have made them look like a patriotic gnome and not Elvis. So Probably not. But how cool would the blue suede shoes have been? Okay. So there we go. Now I have multiple of these brushes. I'm going to set this off to the side. I'm going to grab another one. Another brush. I'm going to pick up a little bit of this red. This is the Santa red. Okay. A little bit of that white. Not a lot. I'm going to buff it in. And like I said, we're going to buff the majority of it out. I feel like there's a hard piece. So we just want a little highlight. Nothing crazy. Okay. And I just want to go just a little bit in there. Just a little bit. Just a little. Just going to buff it on. In the very center. Maybe just sweep it in. I just want to be very careful not to get it in his hand. Just a little bit of just a lift. Just to lift it up just a little bit. A wizard, yes. So there's that red. There's that white. I'm gonna work it in to the brush itself by pouncing. Then we're going to swirl it until we don't see any more wet paint. And by wet paint, shiny paint. We don't want it, once it starts transferring in a matte form, that's when you know it's ready to touch the wood. As long as it's shiny, it's too wet. Now, okay, there we go. No more shiny paint. We're just going to lightly buff it on in circular motions, but you can also go sweepy motions. The circular ones I've noticed just transfer better. Again, light pressure, nothing crazy. And it just lifts. Something about lifting the very center of things with the highlight just make things pop just a little bit more. And you don't need a lot. See, it just lifted just enough. I'm going to lift just a little bit more right here. A little bit more right here. It does it just enough to give it some dimension without having to do a whole lot of work. See? And then you can sweep. Sweep. See? And it just livens it up just enough. We need to do this up here. Like I said, I have multiple of these brushes. Multiple. We do not. In fact, I have some that I haven't even opened yet. Here's another one. This is not necessarily the Wet n Wild. This is just another Dollar Tree makeup brush. Bristles are a little similar. For the nose, let's do some light buttermilk. You could also do white. I want to highlight his nose a little bit. Can't wait for this month's technique. Have several pieces ready to try it on. Oh, this month's Paint Studio technique is going to be fun. I think by tomorrow morning, my arm should, because I'm going to have to like really hold and grip. It does take some arm strength. I'm going to have to hold and grip the wood so that I can do it. And I knew fresh break, I was not going to be able to do that. So now we've got some light buttermilk. And we're just going to concentrate it here at the very top of his nose. And just highlight his nose just a little bit. Light circular motions. Just leaves just enough paint to lift and add light. If light buttermilk isn't enough for you, which I feel like it is for me, you can add a little bit of white to your light buttermilk, just a teensy little bit. Add a little light. You just want to do it right here at the very tip top of his nose, because that's where it's going to be most highlighted. Okay. And you want to do his little hands. Do his little hands. I'll just do the dead center of his hands. Just add a little lift, a little roundness to it. There we go. So these act like dry brushes. Once they touch the water, you can't really use them again until they're completely dry. That's why I have multiple of them. Because if I want to do multiple colors and highlight, I always try to highlight just like I do with shading. I try to not do all white. I try to take a color that complements, maybe a shade lighter than the lightest shade used. So the base coat color so here it was Santa Red. So I took my Santa Red, I ghosted it out just a little bit. I added a little bit of white to that Santa Red, and that's what gave me my highlight color. I'm going to go right here in the center of his sunglasses and add a little bit of a highlight. Straight across. Just to add some light. Right along where that white transition is that we used in the very beginning. One last step, and then we're done. We need to add a rim around his glasses just to clean things up. So let's grab our paint pens. Grab my little bag of paint pens. And we're going to do, we can do black, we can do white. I wish I had a gold. I thought I did at one point, but I don't think I do. Let's do a 3M just to be safe. Which of my 3M is over there? It is. It's right here. Nope. Put that right there so I don't forget to use it. Actually, we can use a 5M. Nope, found my 3M. Okay. Let's see. We can struggle and use the 5M. Let's use the 3M. So I'm going to take my paint pen and make sure not on my wood. I want to prime it right off of the wood. I want to make sure that it's fully loaded. So let's just go right around. This is just going to clean up the lines of his glasses. Like I said, we weren't going to use a lot of paint pen, but there are a couple of spots where I'm like, nope. It's going to be a lot easier using that paint pen than a paintbrush. And they're not super noticeable spots, but they do make a difference. So let's clean them up. So just where all this color transitions between the hat and the glasses. See how it just kind of sharpens it just a little bit? I did not go around the nose or anything like that. I just did the frame of the glasses. The other spot that I want to use my paint pen on is right here on the inside of his mouth. Just because it's going to give me a little, you can use a little round or detail brush and fill that in. But it's just a teeny tiny little detail that I'm not going to stress myself out over trying to use a brush. So there he is. See, there's our little Gnome man. Look how cute he is. Let's blow dry and seal him up and get some Velcro on him, because remember, he is going to be used for a porch cleaner attachment. Let's go ahead and get him ready for that. Oh, no, that hurt. He's super adorable. Hey, Leanne. Okay. So before we go to sealing, let's take our furniture pen. This is a Dollar Tree furniture pen. This is in the black. Okay, it comes in a 3-pack of furniture pins. I throw all the other ones away. I just keep the black one. So, oh, my arm. Okay, there we go. So see all that mess on the side? I'm going to take my furniture pin. Look how it cleans it up. I mean, it really works magic. And it doesn't smear. Even with a brush-on sealer, it doesn't smear at all. And they last a good bit. The other pins that come in the pack, they just don't cover the paint as well. I like the black one because it pretty much cancels out all the colors. Just kind of gives you a nice smooth. Nice smooth, clean look to your edges. Let's see. Even the black sometimes, because it doesn't match your edge color perfectly, it can be super noticeable. So I try to go all the way around and get it nice, clean edges. Okay, so I went all the way around my blank, and now it's just that much more professional looking. Ow, that hurt. Okay, so let's seal him up. He's so stinking cute. I'm going to take my gray one more time and I'm going to highlight that just one more little bit. I feel like it just needs to look a little rounder. You notice I didn't load it back up. All that dry paint, that's all that's transferring there. It's just dry paint that's being transferred on for highlight. Okay, so for our sealer, get my sealer tray back out. Oh, I don't have my sealer tray anymore. Do I need a new sealing tray? All right, so I've got a tray right here. We're going to use our Liquitex High Gloss. You can take this outside and spray seal it with your spray sealer. I'm going to take just a mop brush of some sort. I'm going to just take a wash. This is just a flat wash brush. I'm going to try my hardest to do this in as few strokes as possible, okay? I don't want anything transferring. I don't want any paint, although we didn't use any paint pen. If we did use paint pen, we would be very, very careful not to go too many brush strokes over the paint pen because the sealer does reactivate the paint pen. Oh, wait, we did use paint pen, didn't we? Hold on. We need to hurry up and go over that. Okay, so I'm done with his face. I'm going to let that dry if I need to do a second coat. I'm going to wait till the second coat. Wait for this completely to dry before we go over his mouth or his glasses again, okay? And I am going to do a second coat. So let's go ahead and blow dry just because I want to make sure I have good coverage. I already see one little spot on his hat that I didn't cover. So we're going to get a good, nice blow dry and do a second coat of sealer. Oh, you're welcome, Bonnie. Well, now, are you talking about for the bonus piece in Paint Studio? I think I did. Let me double check. I think I did. Ow! Oh, I moved way too fast to catch the tray. That hurt. That hurt. That hurt. That hurt. That's okay. Whew. That smarted just a little bit. Okay, so here's that one little spot that I told you was kind of skipped over. So we're going to go ahead now that we have a solid coat. Now we have a solid coat over his little glasses. Anywhere where we used paint pen, I'm a little bit more confident in using this brush on sealer now. I don't like to tempt fate with paint pen and brush on sealers. I like to, give it a nice quick coat. There we go. And we're done. So this can be graduated to the water so that it doesn't dry in my brush. And this is done. So let's go ahead and blow dry one last time because we're going to flip it over and add some Velcro, a good piece of Velcro. I hope this helped you a little bit with understanding shading or highlighting a little bit. There's all different ways to shade. There's all different ways to highlight. But these are my favorite ways because I've kind of gotten used to them and they're not hard. They really do take your painting to the next level without having to rely on paint pens to give your definition. Let me see if I can lift this a little bit to reduce some of that glare so that you can see some of that highlight and that shade that's going on in the cape and in his hat and in his glasses and in his shoes. The subtle little changes in his nose and his hands really make him pop. Okay, so I'm going to take some Velcro. Let me show you what I use. Okay, I buy it in bulk because I use it all the time. Do you only put one coat of sealer? Well, Laura, this time I put 2 coats. I don't always put 2 coats, but because it had paint pen, I wanted to do a quick light coat and get all that paint pen sealed in so that I could do a nice thick coat and really smooth out my brush strokes. Paint pen will smear if it gets wet again. Okay, so I wanted to do a quick little coat over especially his paint pen areas so that that could be sealed in and locked in. That way I can do a really nice second coat and get them nice and saturated. With the ombre and with all the shading and highlighting, I usually go 2 coats when I do this much detail work, okay? And that's only because it really gets it nice and saturated and it disperses all that extra little color that I put in and it deepens it. See how all this started to pop even more once I put the sealer on? It really does do a world of wonder. And Miss Bonnie from Whimsical Art Paint Parties, she kind of turned me on to this. I love this brush on sealer. It has been a game changer as far as my smaller pieces. There's no smell to it. You could use it at paint parties. In fact, I think that's what she uses at paint parties. And she is like the paint party queen as far as, just having these little tips and tricks of fail-proof kind of go-to ways of doing things. She pre-cuts her bows. She's just got some really cool things going on over there. Let's see. And she's another Louisiana girl. So I'm already a little partial. All right. So I've got my industrial strength Velcro. You can get this at Walmart, Hobby Lobby, all the big box craft stores, Lowe's, Home Depot. It's a pretty generic go-to product. I'm just going to put it in the center. Usually I will go to my porch leaner outside. But this thing is as wide as it is tall. So putting it smack dab in the center, as big of a piece as that is, and sometimes I'll put an even bigger piece to make sure that no matter where it catches, I can kind of center it with some wiggle room. So all I did was I just put it on and press it down. Give it about 5 minutes to cure inside to the wood, and then it's ready. It's ready to be used. So whenever it comes to my interchangeable, so if it's an interchangeable door hanger, if it's a home sign inside of my house, if it's my welcome porch leaner, all those bases, anything that's the base that doesn't change, gets the scratchy side of the Velcro. Anything that is able to be an interchangeable or a mini piece that can be put on and taken off and switched out, all the things that get switched out get the soft side. Okay, so that's my rule of thumb. That way when I store them, I can store them and the scratchy side won't scratch up the paint on the one behind it. Oh my gosh, I love him so much. He's so cute he is. Look. Okay, okay, y'all ready? I mean, can you handle the cuteness? Can you handle the cuteness? Look how stinking cute he is. I love him. Okay, well, I'm going to let this cure for just a little bit, and then I'm going to take him right outside, and he's going to replace my apple pie attachment that's on there right now because he has to be seen by the world. Like, the world just has to see him. Look how stinking cute. He turned out super cute, didn't he, Shaylin? Checked, and I did say, okay, well, Nella, as soon as I get off here, I'll go add that. Because I'm pretty sure we have the PNG. We need the JPEG, don't we? I got that brush on sealer after I saw you use it. Laura, isn't it game changing? It's so good and it dries so quick and it's glossy. It's so shiny. Let's see. If you need the name of it, here it is. Actually, let me go full table so you can get a better look at it. It's high gloss is what I use. I do have the glossy, but I like the high gloss the most. Look, he had to turn out cute. There was no failing on this one. I had high hopes for him. Alrighty, y'all. So I'm gonna hop off. I'm gonna go get him ready to go put on my porch cleaner. If you need the JPEG or the printable template for this design, you can put the word gnome in the comments, and you will get the buffet of links where you can either pick your template, the JPEG, the wooden blank. This is a 10-inch, but you can get it all the way up to size 24 inches if you'd like. Same technique. Just modify the sizes of your brush. And also, if you put the word gnome in the comments, you will get the paint list of all the paint colors that I used here today. Alrighty, I will see y'all later. Bye.